almost every single draft that I'm seeing built has Haaland, Joao Pedro, and Calvert-Lewin as the front three. But we're forgetting about really good players in the likes of Thiago, Isak, and Gyökeres, who also start the season well. Plus, there is a big elephant in the room around whether Erling Haaland will even be available for game week 1, given we haven't seen him pictured in Manchester City training yet. In today's video, we're going to discuss quite a few things all around forwards for game week 1. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, drop a like on the video and subscribe if you are new around here as well. And it is day 3 of the mini series. We've done defenders, we've done midfielders. If you haven't watched those videos already, lots of useful discussion points in both of those. And the final one, probably the most simple and the most straightforward, is all around forwards for your game week 1 team. And to start off again by having a look at the data. Now, Manchester City and Chelsea are 1 and 2 for expected goals last season, and they also rank 1st but also 5th. So Chelsea slightly underperforming their actual goals compared to their underlying data. A lot of that was under Rafinha, creating chances, not being able to finish them. Of course, Xabi Alonso is now here, and as a Chelsea fan, hopefully things are going to get better going into the new season, but a lot is revolving around, of course, Erling Haaland at Manchester City, although not in pre-season training yet, as we know at time of recording on Tuesday afternoon. And a lot is revolving around Joao Pedro, who almost feels like Chelsea's talisman. But outside of that, next up, you've got Arsenal, where we can talk about Gyökeres, maybe talk about Kai Havertz, but there hasn't been a reliable FPL pick in that forward position for a prolonged period of time for quite a while. Manchester United, their current starting striker in Brian Mbeumo is listed as a midfielder. You've got Brighton, who then have lost their main striker in Danny Welbeck to Chelsea. Liverpool are in next, where Alexander Isak is quite expensive. So people are looking a little bit lower down this list to try and find other forwards. You've got Sunderland, you've got Leeds, you've got Everton, you've got Forest, all ranked quite low for their expected goals last season, but they have some really nice value forwards. So should we be focusing on some of those premium forwards, spending the money elsewhere, or actually are some of those budget ones really the best place to go? Because although these teams rank lower for expected goals in the likes of Leeds, as we take them for an example, a lot of their chances do go through a certain group of players. Yes, City are top, but they share the chances. Haaland gets them, but so does someone like a Semenyo, a Phil Foden, a Cherki, a Doku. Whereas at Leeds, Calvert-Lewin gets most of them. At Sunderland, Robbie gets most of them. And at Nottingham Forest, you have a lot going to Igor Jesus, of course, on top of someone like a Gibbs White or also a Chris Wood. All of the data built into this video is continuing to be from the amazing Fantasy Football Scout members area. They have new features during preseason. They've got a new fantastic app which you can check all of this out on as well. I've been using it to look at the predicted points for these players, try and decide who I'm going to own in the start of the season. If you want to check it out, there'll be a link in the description and the QR code will also be on screen. So I think it's worth discussing the most auto-pick player in about 95% of your teams, and that is Erling Haaland. And the reason that I think he's worth discussing is because we are just over a week away from the start of the FPL season, and Erling Haaland has spent the last month on holiday in beach clubs. If you look at his social media, there's not been much focus on Manchester City training. Now, we do have the Community Shield for Manchester City over the weekend, but the closer we get to that, the more and more I start to think that Erling Haaland will not start that game. Now, if we get to it and he does start, then yes, he looks absolutely nailed to start at home to Bournemouth in game week 1. And there's no real issue and there's no real concern there. I don't really need to talk about Erling Haaland's data. We all know how well he tends to start this season. He scores loads of goals early on. His big chances per 90 are great. I think he is a fantastic pick and he's been in every single one of my drafts. But as we get closer, and if he doesn't start the Community Shield, there will be a conversation to be had around whether we stick with Erling Haaland for our game week 1 teams. The issue is the strategy that we go with if he's not going to be available. And I've got an interesting video where we're going to discuss some of this on Thursday morning. So stay tuned to that. We'll look at drafts without Erling Haaland and Bruno Fernandes and what that looks like. But if we do get to Sunday when the Community Shield is played and Erling Haaland doesn't start and maybe gets 20 or 30 minutes off the bench, or maybe he doesn't feature at all, then I think we start to wonder, does he definitely start Bournemouth at home given that Marmoush is available and has been scoring goals and has been playing pretty well? we have that doubt in our minds. You don't have to start with him. You could start with him and just hope he plays, but it might start to impact captaincy. There will be talk over the next week around this. I still plan on going with Haaland in my team, and that will be my recommendation. But if we get to game week 1 and he's not definitely going to start, we have a decision on our hands about what we do with that money. Next up is at Chelsea, probably Chelsea's attacking talisman at the moment. Now, I know over the past years it's been Palmer, will he bounce back or not? But as a Chelsea fan, when I watch us play and when I look at us play during pre-season under Xabi Alonso, for me, Joao Pedro is Chelsea's attacking talisman at the moment. He is the best Chelsea pick in the game. He is the #1 Chelsea attacker you should be looking to own outside of Rodgers, outside of Cole Palmer. Joao Pedro is the #1 option. If you want to go for a double up, that is fine. Joao Pedro should be first. Now, the only thing, meaning he's not an essential season-long pick, is the fact that he doesn't take penalties. But looking at the way that we are playing during pre-season, looking at the way that he was last year when he had a good manager and the players around him were playing well, and we look great in pre-season linking up with Joao Pedro, for me, he is just an almost essential pick at 7.5 million. I like the opening fixtures. If you are certainly going to wildcard in game week 4, there is a small conversation to be had of saving a bit of money, given that Fulham away, Arsenal away, 2 London derbies in the first 3 are not perfect. But if you're looking long term, I don't really see a reason not to go for Joao Pedro at 7.5. I think he is good value. The only slight negative to him is the lack of penalties, but I think he will make up for that in assists and goals this season. And the other third striker who is in every single draft at the moment is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's just because he ticks a lot of boxes. He's nice and cheap at 6 million. There's no real forward under 6 million that I think is particularly nailed. So we really like that with Calvert-Lewin. His minutes tend to be very reliable when he starts. He has had injuries in the past, but since he's joined Leeds in the past season, he's looked pretty good and pretty reliable for minutes. He's on penalties and he just is their main goal threat. When you try and compare him to other forwards at 6 million, you've got Brobby, you've got Asula, you've got Solanke, Richarlison, Igor Jesus, Chris Wood. None of them tick all of the boxes that Calvert-Lewin does, plus have an opening 5 fixtures that look like Calvert-Lewin's does. Forest away, Brentford at home, Brighton away, Newcastle at home, Crystal Palace at home. 3 of the first 5 at home, 5 good fixtures to start the season. I think he could easily score 3 goals in the first 5. And if that's going to happen, it's pretty difficult to back against him with another forward at the same price. I actually think he's a slightly better pick than Joao Pedro just because he's 1.5 million cheaper. I understand that people don't love Calvert-Lewin as a player. They've been frustrated by him in the past. He's not the most exciting player to pick. He has injury records that have plagued us in FPL. I understand all of those points, but when you look at it holistically, when you look at it from a purely subjective point of view, he has penalties, the minutes are good, the fixtures are there, he tends to be reliable, and he finished last season really well. I just can't argue any other 6 million forward over him. He was in my first draft, and I see no reason why he won't be in my last. Now, a player who is starting to get a bit more attention as Liverpool start to look better is Alexander Isak. And if Haaland is not certainly ready for the start of the season, even more people will start to look at Isak at 9 million. Now, he had a really, really poor season at Liverpool last year. There's no real hiding that, which is why his price is 9 million and not higher, which is what it certainly could be if he'd have been fit for all of last year. When you look at what he did when he was at Newcastle and now try and apply that to playing around other players in this Liverpool team, he has the ability to be a fantastic option. The slight issue with him is the price in comparison to other players. If you're starting with Haaland and then you've got Joao Pedro and Calvert-Lewin and Brobby and others all at cheaper, Igor Thiago, Ollie Watkins, Gyökeres, all at cheaper prices when we're trying to find a lot of money to spend in our midfield on the likes of Mbeumo, in defence on the likes of O'Reilly, Vardiol, Gabriel, it is difficult to afford Isak. But I do think he is good for minutes. Of course, there's no Ekitike. I don't think he'll play 90. I do think he'll be on pens. It's just whether you can afford to fit him in. If you're dropping Haaland, then it's really easy. But if you're not dropping Haaland and you're trying to go with him and Isak, it will really start to stretch the rest of your squad. So I don't mind him as an early season pick. And I think if Haaland is ruled out or not ready for game week 1, then he will become more popular. And just before we have a look at the rankings, a quick note of some slightly cheaper forwards. There are no 4.5 million forwards or 5 million forwards that will get reliable minutes or reliable starts. If you're trying to do that, and get a cheaper one under 6 million, I wouldn't do it. I would find the 0.5 to go for one of those 6 million forwards. I think they are the best options. But if you're looking at 5.5, the two that I would pull out are Beto and Wright of Coventry. I think Beto will start the season over Barry. It's not 100% nailed as Barry has played good minutes during pre-season, but I do expect Beto to be Everton's number one for the opening few games, or you can go for Wright of Coventry. The only real reason I'd go for either of these, if it fits and helps a bench boost strategy, plus an early wildcard. I wouldn't want to carry either of these long term because it's taking up $1 million of budget over a 4.5 million forward, and you're probably going to play them as much as if you had a 4.5 apart from potentially on the bench boost. So if you're trying to hold them long term, please find the money for a 6 million option. But if you're early wildcard, early bench boost, then Beto and Wright, depending on what week you need them for. So let's wrap up by having a look at my top 10 forwards for game week 1 and discuss a few others, because number 1 is Haaland. Number 2 is actually Calvert-Lewin, just because on a value point of view, the data is pretty similar, and the fact that he's on penalties over Joao Pedro, 1.5 saving. If I had to own one, Calvert-Lewin is probably slightly in my draft above Joao Pedro, but I think they are both pretty great picks. But outside of that, I've gone with Thiago. I think people are underrepresenting how good the first 4 fixtures are for them. Spurs, Leeds, Sunderland, Bournemouth is a pretty nice start to the season. He's looked good in pre-season, scoring goals from open play. They've, of course, got wingers who win a lot of penalties in the likes of Dango Ouattara. They've got Schade and now Anthony. So I expect him to have another good season. But up at 8 million, is he a better option? You've got to basically not pick one of Calvert-Lewin, Joao Pedro or Haaland if you want to fit any of these into your team. Number 5 is then Brobby, and I really like him for the first 3 games. So if you're committing to a game week 4 or 5 wildcard, then I really would start to consider Brobby. But when I've watched Sunderland during pre-season, I know the opening games are good of Ipswich, Fulham, Brentford. He hasn't been getting loads of chances. And when you look at his big chances per 90 in the data column here, he does rank considerably below some of the options we've already spoken about. But even some of the other picks at a similar price, he is quite a lot lower, meaning he's got to take the chances he gets rather than being a high volume and being able to take as many as he wants, which tends to reduce the amount he might be able to haul in a specific game. But for a short-term pick, I like him. Next up is Igor Jesus, who looks like he's going to be either playing in the number 10 role or up front for Nottingham Forest at the start of the season. Liverpool, Spurs, Villa are the reason that he's not more popular. Leeds at home, Coventry at home, either side of that is a really nice benchmark for game week 1 and game week 5. Some of the best fixtures there. But Liverpool, Spurs, Villa just looks too difficult on paper. I don't mind him, again, as a short-term, medium-term pick, and I think he'll have another good season. We're just slightly uncertain if he's on penalties. We don't exactly know what role he's going to play, and the opening fixtures are not perfect, but I do like him as a pick. Then you have a couple of more expensive options. Alexander Isak and Victor Gyökeres. Both I think will do well. Both I think are good options for the start of the season. The issue is they're just more expensive than someone like a Calvert-Lewin, Igor Jesus and a Brobby. And they're not as reliable in terms of fitness and minutes as someone like a Joao Pedro and a Thiago. So as much as I like Isak and Gyökeres, and I think there will be times in the season that we look to own them, and if Haaland is not available for game week 1, both of these will become very popular, I think. There are just enough other options, which is why myself and others are not picking them for game week 1. Number 9 is Mateta. I do think he's been underpriced. Everton away, City at home, the first 2 just means there are other options you're probably safer off starting with, but I do think he'll be first choice over Strand Larsen. They've signed some nice attackers. You've got Dwight McNeil added on there with that crazy swap deal with Everton and Crystal Palace, but I do think Mateta will do well. 6.5, his big chances per 90 are top of this list outside Erling Haaland, so 6.5 is a nice price. Again, we're trying to find 0.5 everywhere in our team, so Calvert-Lewin versus Mateta, you save that 0.5. Brobby, Igor Jesus, you save that 0.5. If he was 6 million, he'd be very, very popular. So maybe he's quite an interesting differential for that exact reason. And the number 10 is Richarlison. It looks like Solanke is going to miss the opening few games, which then means that Richarlison should get good minutes. They are still linked with other forwards, potentially Gakpo of Liverpool, who's actually a midfielder in FPL, but it's too close to the start of the season. So I do expect Richarlison to start as long as Dominic Solanke remains out injured. And he scores a lot of goals. His actual output for Spurs when he starts games is pretty good. So a nice differential there for 6 million. Could be on penalties if you want one as a bit of a punt. But that is all for forwards. Hopefully a slightly more straightforward decision for you. Just 3 spots in your team and hopefully a slightly more straightforward decision than some of the midfielders and defenders we've already discussed. But as I've said, all the data taken from this is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. We've discussed defenders, midfielders, and now forwards in a mini series. So make sure you're watching all of those, as it's now time to turn our attention to some drafts, some guests as we get into the final week before game week 1. If that sounds interesting or you've enjoyed what we've seen so far, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and I'll be back again very soon.